the warm weather continues, I was just reading some news and stuff like that, and apparently it's not just me noticing, for example, a lot of the trees actually, as I mentioned, the leaves and stuff are turning brown already. Like it's kind of like this. Too hot, I guess? Seems like it was mostly gloomy type of news today I read too. I guess this first one here says, Libya, a human target is shot down for the first time by a drone. According to the UN, Libya is the only country where a human has been shot down by a drone. This incident took place in March 2020. Does it mark a turning point in the history of warfare? Is this going to make people terrified of every single type of drone? It says, unidentified violent object. In just 3 words, French philosopher Grégoire Chamayot, author of Theory of Drone, manages to define the drone a new weapon of war. At first glance, this technological innovation could be used to reduce human casualties. However, UN panel of experts has brought to light the worrying event in which a drone reportedly shot down a human target in Libya in March 2020. The problem is that the drone wasn't being controlled by any human at the time. The autonomy of these technologies gems raises many questions that suggest the advent of a new type of warfare. I was thinking too, in terms of killing a human target, wasn't there a story or something like that in terms of the US using a drone to kill like some kind of military general or something like that in Iran? Although this one, I guess, is targeting specifically a person itself. Am I reading this correctly? Whereas the other one, I think the person was in a vehicle. But it's only a matter of time, I think, until a lot of military and stuff start using these things instead of an actual manned person. I think that's just the way it's going to be. But at the same time, again, as I mentioned, huge difference between some toy drone versus stuff like this, what people use in the military. At the end of the day, it's just a piece of tech, and it's more about, I guess, the individuals and what they do with it. You can't just blanket say everyone's like this because of, like, say, this one person or organization. Which got me to think, because I read this unfortunate story where it dealt with, I guess, a martial arts school where they really were aggressive, like with the student, where they had to be, I guess you could say, hospitalized. It says, Taiwan boy thrown 27 times during judo class, taken off life support. In terms of what happened, from what I gather, it seems like it was a drill where it was done excessively to the point where, I guess you could say, the person was severely injured. It says a 7-year-old boy who was slammed to the floor 27 times during judo practice has died in Taiwan. In April, he has suffered severe brain hemorrhaging after judo class, which saw both his classmate and his coach practice their throws on him. The boy, who has not been identified, later went into a coma and was put on life-supporting treatment. His parents decided to withdraw life support after nearly 70 days, according to local media reports. The boy's coach, who is in his late 60s, has been charged with physical assault, resulting in serious injury and using a minor to commit a crime, according to local news site The Taipei Times. The coach, identified only by his surname, Ho, was earlier this month released on bail. The ultimate punishment if found guilty, it says, it could be 7 years in jail or potentially life in prison. And here was the thing too, the boy was accompanied, I guess, to the class by his uncle, it says, who was actually filming it and showing the parents afterwards. I guess in a way to say, hey, this might not be appropriate for him. But I guess despite that, they actually kept going. It even says in the video, he is heard screaming in the video, but his coach orders him to stand up and tells the older boy to continue throwing him, before proceeding to pick him up and throw him to the ground himself. He eventually passes out, though his family says his coach accused him of faking unconsciousness. I actually believe this too because it's more of a cultural thing. It says there are questions as to why his uncle did not stop the coach, but experts in Taiwan say there is a long-seated notion of respect and reverence for teachers, which sometimes means accepting their authority regardless of the circumstances. I'm only speaking from experience. Usually in Asian culture, that is generally the mentality where if someone of authority tells you to do something, you better do it, so to speak. Otherwise, you'll get, I don't know, beaten or something like that. At the same time, if things are hard, who cares? You better get up and do it again because no one's gonna help you. I mean, that's just the way it was. But at the same time, with this story, I know there's a lot of martial arts schools actually that are fantastic. They actually teach people about self-respect, discipline, respect for others. At the same time, there are these abusive people where it's not even so much about, I guess, teaching people. It's them having some kind of, I don't know, ego, where they just want to boss people around. They actually hurt them, I guess, just to feel superior. like there, I would say, like with the previous story, it's more about people in general. Like here, I guess you could say, oh no, every school, whatever is dangerous, they better stop stuff like this. But really, it's specific individuals. I guess that's actually one interesting thing too, just living, I guess, as a life as a minority, where obviously I was born in Canada, so culturally, I'm obviously like most Canadians, but at the same time, I did grow up in an Asian family, so I kind of have that mix where there are points where I would say, yeah, like be whatever, like persistent, be tough. That's how you develop like the Iron Man, I guess, type of status. But at the same time, there is a point where it just gets plain, I guess, abusive. And if someone of authority, so to speak, is doing something wrong, then you should speak out about it. I guess that's kind of like the mix, so to speak, in terms of the culture, just growing up the way I did. Actually, I think one great example in terms of a more positive side is there was that show America's Got Talent where recently one of the acts, if that's what you want to say, was a taekwondo performance. There was like a huge team of people doing flips and stuff, kicking boards, and the judges, I guess, never seen anything like that. But what was such a great comment was there was one of the person, I guess that was the host, he said, wow, it shows like so much discipline and courage and stuff like that. It wasn't even so much about, you know, fighting, etc., etc. Like to me, that's actually what it should embody when people run like this things like a school and stuff like that. That's what you're teaching people, like discipline, respect, courage. So yeah, that's actually a great example. You should check it out, in my opinion. Alright, see you guys later.